The world of the spiritual is not far removed from our physical reality, but rather interpenetrates it in ways most cannot perceive. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, discovered this truth through his remarkable ability to access higher dimensional consciousness while in a trance state. His insights revealed that we all possess the innate ability to transcend our current limited perception and enter realms of expanded awareness, dimensions that exist beyond our three-dimensional world, yet remain accessible to those who know how to attune themselves properly. Before we continue, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Edgar Cayce's journey into higher dimensions began quite unexpectedly. As a young man struggling with voice loss, he discovered that by entering a self-induced trance state, he could not only diagnose and prescribe treatments for his own condition, but eventually for thousands of others seeking healing. What makes Cayce's story so compelling is that this humble Kentucky man with limited formal education accessed information that often proved remarkably accurate and ahead of his time. Throughout his life, Cayce gave over 14,000 documented readings while in trance states, where his consciousness appeared to transcend ordinary physical limitations. During these sessions, he repeatedly emphasized that the higher dimensions are not distant realms, but parallel realities existing alongside our own, accessible through specific practices and states of consciousness. The spirit is the life, the mind is the builder, and the physical is the result, Cayce would often say. This fundamental principle underpins his understanding of how dimensions interact. For Cayce, these weren't merely philosophical concepts, but experiential realities he navigated regularly in his trance states. He described how every thought and action in our physical dimension reverberates through these higher planes, creating patterns that eventually manifest in our material reality. What exactly are these higher dimensions? According to Cayce's readings, they are vibrational states of existence where consciousness operates beyond the limitations of time, space, and matter as we know them. The fourth dimension, for instance, transcends our linear perception of time, allowing for a more unified experience where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. The fifth dimension incorporates even greater awareness, where the separation between individual consciousness begins to dissolve into a more unified field. Cayce maintained that accessing these higher dimensions isn't merely for personal curiosity or psychic development. It serves a profound purpose in our spiritual evolution. By expanding our awareness beyond physical limitations, we align more fully with our soul's journey and unlock abilities to heal, create, and transform both ourselves and our world in extraordinary ways. What makes Cayce's approach so revolutionary is his insistence that these dimensional shifts aren't reserved for mystics or those with special gifts. Rather, they represent natural evolutionary steps available to anyone willing to follow certain principles and practices. The pathways he outlined are both practical and profound, requiring no special equipment or extreme lifestyle changes, only consistent application and sincere desire. From thousands of readings emerged a consistent framework for this dimensional expansion. Cayce detailed 5 essential steps that, when practiced with dedication and proper intention, can facilitate this consciousness shift. These aren't quick fixes or one-time experiences, but rather a progressive unfolding of awareness that develops with consistent practice over time. The first step in Cayce's system for accessing higher dimensions is the cultivation of meditation and quieting the mind. The silence is where God speaks to you, Cayce often emphasized. He recommended setting aside time each day, even if just a few minutes initially, to sit in stillness and silence. This practice wasn't about emptying the mind completely, but rather about shifting attention away from external stimuli and the constant chatter of what he called the conscious mind. During his readings, Cayce would prescribe specific meditation techniques tailored to individual seekers. A common recommendation was to focus on breathing while visualizing light entering the body with each inhale, spreading through every cell and organ. Another approach involved repeating a simple affirmation or mantra such as, "Be still and know that I am God." The key was consistency, making meditation a daily practice rather than an occasional experience. Cayce explained that regular meditation gradually attunes the brain's electrical patterns to higher frequencies, creating neural pathways that facilitate dimensional shifts in consciousness. Through this discipline, the normally dominant analytical mind becomes quieter, allowing subtler perceptions to emerge. Many who followed his guidance reported increased intuitive insights, spontaneous healing experiences, and occasional glimpses of expanded awareness where time seemed to stand still. The more and more each is impelled by that which is intuitive, or the relying upon the soul force within, the greater, the farther, the deeper, the broader, the more constructive may be the result, Cayce stated in reading 792-2. This cultivation of intuition represents the second crucial step in accessing higher dimensional awareness. For Cayce, intuition wasn't random guesswork or emotional impulse, but rather the voice of the soul communicating through what he called the superconscious mind. He taught that this faculty becomes increasingly reliable through regular practice and attention. Simple exercises he recommended included asking for intuitive guidance before sleep and recording any insights upon waking, practicing immediate response to first impressions about decisions rather than overthinking, and regularly reflecting on past intuitive nudges that proved accurate. The development of intuition creates a bridge between dimensions, Cayce explained. Our intuitive faculty naturally operates beyond the constraints of physical time and space, accessing information that transcends our immediate sensory experience. As this ability strengthens, we begin perceiving reality more as an interconnected whole rather than isolated fragments, a fundamental characteristic of higher dimensional awareness. The third step in Cayce's system involves aligning one's actions with universal spiritual laws. As ye sow, so shall ye reap wasn't just biblical wisdom for Cayce, but a precise description of how consciousness operates across dimensions. He emphasized that higher vibrational states cannot be maintained when one's conduct creates disharmony and lower vibrational patterns. Cayce particularly stressed the importance of service to others, forgiveness, and maintaining constructive relationships. No soul may develop while carrying hate, he cautioned in reading 2498-1. The emotional patterns generated by resentment, selfishness, and fear create energetic barriers that effectively block access to higher dimensions. Conversely, acts of compassion, forgiveness, and selfless service generate vibrational patterns that naturally attune one to higher frequencies. This moral component distinguishes Cayce's approach from purely mechanical techniques for altering consciousness. He insisted that genuine spiritual advancement cannot be separated from ethical development. The two progress together or not at all. Many who sought his guidance for psychic development but neglected this aspect found their progress limited or distorted. The fourth step in Cayce's pathway involves working consciously with dreams and the subconscious mind. Dreams are today's answers to tomorrow's questions, he stated. For Cayce, the dream state naturally transcends physical limitations, offering direct experience of higher dimensional consciousness each night. Most people, however, fail to bring this awareness back into waking consciousness. Cayce recommended keeping a dream journal beside the bed, recording dreams immediately upon waking before they fade from memory. He suggested asking specific questions before sleep and setting the intention to remember the resulting dream guidance. Through persistent practice, many following his approach reported increasingly vivid and meaningful dreams, occasionally including prophetic elements or solutions to problems that eluded their waking minds. The subconscious, according to Cayce's model, serves as both repository for our past experiences and bridge to higher dimensional awareness. By working constructively with this aspect of mind, addressing negative patterns through affirmation, visualization, and prayer, we gradually transform the subconscious from a potential obstacle to a powerful ally in dimensional expansion. The fifth and perhaps most profound step in Cayce's system is the activation and raising of spiritual energy through the body's subtle centers, what some traditions call chakras. Cayce described a system of spiritual energetic centers running from the base of the spine to the crown of the head, each corresponding to different aspects of consciousness and dimensional access. The spiritual body of each soul is the sum total of what that soul has done with what it has become aware of, Cayce explained. He taught that through meditation, right living, and specific practices, these centers gradually awaken and align, enabling consciousness to rise beyond physical limitations. This process wasn't without challenges. Cayce warned that attempting to force this awakening through mechanical techniques without proper spiritual preparation could lead to psychological imbalance or physical symptoms. The proper approach, according to his readings, involves gentle, persistent spiritual practice while maintaining physical health through proper diet, exercise, and adequate rest. The pineal and pituitary glands play crucial roles in this process, functioning as physical intermediaries between dimensions when properly activated through spiritual development. As these 5 steps are integrated into daily life, meditation, intuitive development, ethical living, dream work, and spiritual energy cultivation, Cayce taught that a natural expansion of consciousness occurs. This isn't a sudden dramatic shift, but rather a gradual transformation with occasional breakthrough experiences. Many who faithfully applied Cayce's guidance reported profound changes in their perception of reality. Some described experiences where time seemed to collapse, allowing glimpses of future events or access to information they couldn't have known through ordinary means. Others reported healing abilities emerging spontaneously, sensing energy fields around living beings, or moments of cosmic consciousness, where separation between self and universe temporarily dissolved. What makes Cayce's dimensional teachings particularly relevant today is their integration of spirituality with emerging scientific understandings. Modern physics increasingly describes a universe of multiple dimensions beyond our familiar 3-dimensional space plus time. While science approaches these concepts mathematically, Cayce provided experiential pathways to directly perceive these dimensional realities. Science and religion will come together, and they will not be contradictory, Cayce predicted, for they are of one God. His work anticipated the growing convergence between quantum physics and mystical traditions, suggesting that what ancient spiritual teachers called higher planes, and what modern physicists term additional dimensions, may be different frameworks describing the same underlying reality. The practical benefits of this dimensional expansion extend far beyond fascinating experiences or metaphysical insights. Cayce consistently emphasized that higher awareness brings increased ability to serve others through healing, guidance, and creative solutions to personal and collective challenges. Many who sought readings for physical ailments found that as they applied his spiritual recommendations alongside physical treatments, their healing accelerated remarkably. This enhanced healing capability emerges because higher dimensional awareness allows access to the causal patterns behind physical manifestations. Spirit is the life, mind is the builder, physical is the result, Cayce would repeat. From higher dimensional perspectives, we can influence the causal patterns that eventually manifest as physical conditions, whether in individual health, relationships, or broader social circumstances. Perhaps most significantly, Cayce taught that this dimensional shift represents humanity's collective destiny, not merely individual achievement. Each soul in entering the material experience does so for those purposes of advancement, towards that awareness of being fully conscious of the relationships to the creative forces, he stated in reading 574914. He foresaw a time when humanity would collectively experience an evolutionary leap in consciousness, accessing dimensional awareness currently available only in glimpses or to dedicated practitioners. This perspective places personal spiritual development within a larger context of human evolution. Each individual who successfully navigates these dimensional shifts contributes to a field of expanded awareness that gradually becomes more accessible to all. Your personal practice thus serves not only your soul's journey, but humanity's collective advancement. The transformation Cayce described isn't merely perceptual, but fundamentally alters how we experience ourselves and our relationship to all life. In the manner ye treat thy fellow man, ye treat thy maker, he emphasized. Higher dimensional awareness reveals the underlying unity connecting all consciousness. What appears as separation in our physical dimension is recognized as illusion from higher perspectives. Many who have followed Cayce's guidance report a profound shift in their experience of time. Rather than being trapped in linear progression, they describe an expanding awareness of what he called the eternal now, a state where past, present, and future are perceived as aspects of a unified whole. This shift doesn't negate practical functioning in everyday life, but enriches it with deeper perspective and reduced anxiety about temporal concerns. Another common experience is increased synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem orchestrated by a higher intelligence. From Cayce's perspective, these aren't random occurrences, but glimpses of higher dimensional ordering principles becoming visible in physical reality. As awareness expands, we become more conscious participants in this synchronistic flow, rather than passive observers of seemingly chance events. The consistent application of these 5 steps gradually transforms not just perception, but identity itself. The whole purpose for which we live is to gradually, step by step, realize and unfold our divine nature, Cayce explained. Higher dimensional consciousness reveals that we are not merely physical beings having occasional spiritual experiences, but rather spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience, a profound reversal of perspective with far-reaching implications. This dimensional shift fundamentally alters our relationship with fear, particularly the fear of death. Cayce's readings consistently described physical death not as an ending, but as a transition between dimensional states, a perspective he experienced directly during his trance states. Those who glimpse these higher dimensions often report that the intense fear of mortality that drives so much human behavior simply dissolves in the light of direct experience. Perhaps most importantly, higher dimensional awareness brings a profound sense of purpose and meaning. From expanded perspectives, the apparent randomness and suffering of physical existence reveals itself as part of a larger pattern of soul growth and evolution. This doesn't eliminate life's challenges, but transforms how we experience and respond to them, seeing them as opportunities rather than obstacles. The question naturally arises, why don't more people experience these dimensional shifts if they represent our natural evolutionary trajectory? Cayce explained that habitual thought patterns, cultural conditioning, excessive materialism, and the constant stimulation of modern life create barriers to this awareness. The 5 steps he outlined systematically address these obstacles, creating conditions where higher perception can naturally emerge. The good news, according to Cayce's readings, is that even small, consistent efforts in these directions yield significant results over time. Little by little, line upon line, precept upon precept, was a phrase he often used to describe this process. Each meditation, each intuitive insight honored, each act of service or forgiveness, each dream remembered and reflected upon, each moment of energy awareness, all contribute incrementally to this dimensional shift. What awaits beyond these thresholds of perception? Cayce described increasingly refined states of consciousness corresponding to even higher dimensions, each bringing greater understanding, creative ability, and capacity to serve divine purposes. These aren't final destinations, but aspects of an eternal journey of the soul through infinite dimensional possibilities. The most profound message emerging from Cayce's dimensional teachings is that the universe is fundamentally conscious, purposeful, and loving in its essential nature. The apparently random, sometimes harsh physical world represents only the outermost expression of this reality, a kind of classroom for soul development. As we access higher dimensions, we directly experience the loving intelligence organizing these seemingly chaotic patterns into meaningful growth opportunities. The 5 steps Cayce outlined, meditation, intuitive development, ethical living, dream work, and spiritual energy cultivation, offer a comprehensive system for gradually shifting our center of awareness from purely physical to increasingly expansive dimensional perspectives. This shift doesn't require abandoning practical life, but rather infuses everyday experience with deeper meaning, purpose, and ability to create positive change. The beauty of Cayce's approach lies in its balanced integration of spiritual and practical concerns. Unlike systems that emphasize transcendence at the expense of worldly engagement, he taught that higher dimensional awareness should enhance our ability to serve and create constructively in physical reality. The more knowledge, the more responsibility he frequently reminded those who sought his guidance. Every soul stands at a threshold of potential expansion. The higher dimensions Cayce described aren't distant realms requiring extraordinary measures to access, but natural extensions of our consciousness, awaiting recognition through dedicated practice. The 5 steps he outlined represent a roadmap for this journey, not a quick transformational fix, but a progressive unfolding that rewards persistent effort with ever-deepening insight and ability. The invitation extended through Cayce's work is both personal and universal, to recognize our multidimensional nature and gradually shift our center of awareness to include these expanded perspectives. In doing so, we not only transform our individual experience but contribute to humanity's collective evolution toward higher consciousness, a journey with profound implications for our shared future on this planet and beyond. As Edgar Cayce might observe if he were with us today, the dimensions you seek are not separate from where you stand now, but interpenetrate your current awareness, awaiting your recognition. Through dedicated practice of these 5 principles, the veils between worlds grow thinner, eventually dissolving into the recognition that separation itself is the grandest illusion. What awaits beyond that recognition is not an ending, but a magnificent beginning, a new phase in the eternal adventure of consciousness, exploring its infinite potential. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Edgar Cayce's wisdom about accessing higher dimensions. If these insights resonated with you, we'd love to hear about your own experiences or questions in the comments below. We read every single one. Your engagement through likes and shares helps spread these transformative ideas to others who might benefit. Subscribe to our channel for more videos exploring spiritual wisdom from great teachers throughout history. Remember, as Cayce himself would say, dreams are today's answers to tomorrow's questions.